Hey, my friends, let's talk about various techniques to help relieve symptoms of depression. The reason for this video is very simple. There's just a lot of people that deal with this. I've dealt with it off and on in my life. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We all have things that we deal with. It's just part of the human condition. So I just wrote down some notes. Please forgive me that I'm going to be jumping around a little bit in my notes. And also just going to be doing the best I can to kind of give you examples that have helped me and that I've seen help other people. Hopefully at least a few of these will help you or whoever you know that's dealing with depression. The first thing is, it's just the knowing that you're not alone. Right there can really lift some burden right there. Because if you think that you're the only person who's suffering and is down in the dumps, it makes things a lot worse, but you're really not at all. The best figure currently that is talking about the active number of people right now that have depression is 300 million people globally. And that's just those who have been diagnosed. And so you have to add a number of other people that just haven't yet been diagnosed, probably millions of others, because in parts of the world, they don't have very good health care. And there's people that just don't get diagnosed when they really do have something going on. The next thing here is very simple, and that's to eat as clean as possible. So just avoid processed food, especially junk food, going out to eat, especially if you're talking about fast food restaurants, just avoid, as much sugar as possible, GMO foods, anything that has pesticides, anything that is going to just have a bunch of preservatives and artificial flavoring and coloring, all that stuff. It can affect you. I'm serious. It really can mess with you. You may not even know that you have sensitivity to certain things, but it doesn't mean that it's not messing with you. The next thing is to get adequate sleep. Now, there's a lot of people when they get depressed, they sleep too much. But then there's also other people that just, they can't fall asleep. They have insomnia of some type. So for those people, do the best you can to take a nap if you need to during the day, or just try to sleep more during the night. Don't overwork yourself. Now, this is something that when you're depressed, some people try to distract themselves a lot. And sometimes distraction is good. There's healthy distractions. But then there's also really destructive distractions and habits. And if you're just like a workaholic, it may be one of the reasons you are depressed. But doing this to try to cope with depression really isn't the answer. Also know that depression can be a defense mechanism or a coping mechanism. Depression is a suppression of energy, emotions, and or feelings. And this acts to protect sometimes yourself from acting out or doing potentially destructive actions. People depress specifically for a number of reasons, and here I have a few written down. It could be your way of calling for help. Maybe you don't really know how to verbalize that you need help, and so you depress. For other people, it's to prevent rage or anger outburst. Maybe you know that something happened, and you don't know how to deal with it. So instead of going in a physical way of expressing yourself, maybe you depress. I see that quite a bit everywhere around. Especially when I was a counselor, I'd see a lot of people depress just to kind of protect themselves and protect others from their own self. To also suppress guilt. I see a lot of people that just, for whatever reason, they feel guilty about something and they can't work through it, and they depress about it. Some people just forget of why they feel guilty, but it's still there. Also, there's a lot of people who avoid grief. If you've had a major loss of anything, it can really take you down. And so there's a lot of people who don't want to deal with the whole process of grief. And so they avoid it to a large degree. And then they have a fallout and their body kind of goes into a protective mode that we call depression. So understanding the underlying cause is a very good step in breaking down why you are depressed. Let's get into some other tips here, like exercise and being active. It's very, very helpful. This is something that I would do immediately, even if it just means jogging in place in your living room or doing crunches or do something, do jumping jacks right now. Being active, it really does increase your dopamine and your endorphins. And your endorphins is like your natural painkillers. And it can really, really make you feel better. I mean, it can be surprisingly helpful. Also, just being around supportive people, people that are not going to be critical of you, people that you like being around. That's always very helpful because you don't want to feel like you're alone, And so if you like being around a person, then be around that person if they don't mind. Also, avoid caffeine, sugar, drugs of any type, especially illegal drugs, but there's a lot of legal drugs that are just as bad. Cigarettes, and of course, this one right here I have to really highlight, and it's alcohol. So many people just forget that alcohol is a depressant. So it's like one of the worst things you can do is when you're depressed is to start drinking because you're just going to get that much worse. And that's a really, really bad thing. Also, check to see if any of your medication that you are taking has depressive side effects. Some of them do. In fact, quite a few of them have that. Also, help someone. This has been shown in lots of studies to help you to release dopamine in the brain, which is a kind of like, a feel-good drug. But when you help someone else, you have more of a purpose in life. Also, you're doing the right thing, right? So helping someone else actually helps you indirectly. And some people would say even directly, but basically it's a good thing. And if you're really depressed, helping someone else could be a really big key to getting back on your feet. Next is to get lost in your hobbies and interest. I can't tell you how many times that I've kind of felt down, maybe not full on depressed, but just kind of down. And I find myself in my favorite book and I'm like, wow, hours go by. And I get done reading and I feel like a different person. Ask yourself if you need a lifestyle change. And I'm just being honest with you. A lot of us, we work jobs that we don't like, or we're in relationships that are not healthy. They could be toxic. It may be time to end a certain employment or end a certain relationship or to start a new relationship. I mean, there are some people who get depressed because they're just too scared to ask someone out or to start something with someone. So there's a lot of things out there to consider. Next is to express yourself through writing, art, and music, among other things. So don't be afraid to express yourself. If you can't verbally tell someone and describe like what the problem is, you can always express yourself in other ways. Lots of other ways, especially within the arts. I mean, you got painting, you got drawing, you got sculpting, all kinds of cool things, right? You can even use photography and collage making. It just goes on and on. If you live alone, you might want to consider a pet. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say dog. A dog is a better way than a cat. But I mean, everybody's different. Maybe a cat is what you need. But there are certain breeds of dogs that are really not just only loyal, but they're very friendly. They don't bark. They're not going to stress you out. And I would look into those. The next is I would get a blood test to eliminate the possibility that you have a nutrient deficiency. And I'm not sure if you remember, but I had a severe vitamin D deficiency the end of last year. And I mean, I felt horrible. I was dealing with a bit of depression. Most of mine was like anxiety and just extreme fatigue. I could barely walk and it was super scary. And so, but for some other people, you can definitely get some pretty heavy depression, major mood swings, which I was getting those toward the end there. But yeah, vitamin D deficiency is so common these days. Like it was surprising to find out what I did about vitamin D. Also magnesium. Magnesium can really calm you down and make you feel a lot better. So, I mean, even if they show that you don't have a deficiency, taking a little extra vitamin D and a little extra magnesium, even some of the omega fatty acids can go a long way to making you feel better. Some people even say probiotics help as well. Be aware that if you go through life without having a purpose at all, like you're just floating through life, that's not going to really help you, especially if you have depression. So try to find a purpose or two, like a real purpose of like what life's all about for you. And also don't be afraid to at least start to make small, doable goals. Don't get there, in the middle of your depression and say, hey, I'm going to put this massive, long-term, very detailed goal in front of me. No, maybe just set up one or two small little goals that you can complete today or throughout this week. And that'd be something that you can work toward. And when you finish those little goals, you can go and look back and say, wow, I did that. I accomplished something, and feel good about that. And you'll have something to talk about with others. Next is to stop the whole process of watching negative media. And it could be just crazy, videos here on YouTube or just the mainstream media, just watching the news, at lunchtime, or it could be at supper time. Whenever you watch the news, if you watch it at all, it's very depressing. I mean, seriously, the news is just horrible. You hardly ever see anything positive. And when you do, it's a very short little clip. And then you have like 30 minutes or more of just horrible death and destruction. Next is I would identify what you can and then what you also can't control in life. And the stuff that you can control, look at how you can control things, how you can make changes in your life. And the things that you can't control, you just want to just ignore it. I mean, if you can't do nothing about it, then why get worried about it? So you also have to learn to say no to others. Just say no to others. I mean, if you really don't want to do it, then just say, man, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. No. It's okay to do that. Also learn not to care so much what others think of you. I mean, you can't control that. Like, they want to think ill of you, or if they don't like you, or maybe you just look like someone else they knew that they didn't like, or maybe this or that. There's a lot of things still out of our control. And so you can't worry about that. I used to do that a little bit from time to time. I'd worry about, man, do I look goofy? Am I wearing cool looking clothes, or is my hairdo like just awesome? And, worried about, and I found out later on that no one really even looked. It's not that people didn't really care about me. It's just, they don't care about all this other stuff that I thought was really a big deal. So just learn not to care about all that stuff. Just do what you need to do and be happy and be confident in your decision making, and just kind of say, you know what, other people can think whatever, and that's out of my control, and I'm just going to live in my life. Next is to be gentle with yourself. Too often I see people do things to themselves which is so disrespectful that they wouldn't do it to other people. But they would talk to themselves as if they're just the scum of the earth, or they don't take care of themselves. They eat the crappiest food. They do all kinds of things which are really wrong. And so you have to take care of yourself. Be gentle. Be respectful to yourself. The next is to use mindfulness. And even though some people will be like, oh God, here we go, new age stuff. I'm not into new age, but I'm just saying just simple meditation. I mean, if it's just you sitting for 5 minutes and thinking about something that's pleasant, that's a form of meditation. It could be very simple. It could be that, you decide to say a prayer, and of course, when you pray to God, it's just a means of communication. You're just having a conversation, so it's not a big deal. You can just talk to God. You can meditate on that prayer, on that conversation. And, when you also use mindfulness of being in the moment, being present minded, things are a lot better. And lastly, as if this is really, you can see my whole order of my list is really crazy, isn't it? I'm just jumping everywhere, but it makes the video kind of more fun. The last thing I'd like to say here is to stay hydrated. Keep your energy levels up by having enough water and electrolytes. And that really means to have certain type of minerals and salts. And so look into that. Know how to stay hydrated. As always, I wish the very best for everyone. I know that some of you guys are dealing with some difficult times right now, and just know that I'm here for you. If I can do anything to help you get through this time period, just know that I would try. And I want to also just want you to know one more time that you're not alone. Not alone at all. We all suffer. And it's not to take anything from your suffering, but just know that there's a lot of other people suffering right now with you. And there's a reason for this suffering. There certainly is a reason. We may never know in our lifetime what that is. But what I've noticed is whenever I've gone through difficult times in my life, they have made me so much stronger. And that might seem like a cliche thing to say, but it really has. I've been through surgeries. I've been depressed. I've had all kind of anxiety problems in my life. All kinds of things happened. And when I look back, I have had so many things that I can learn from all that. And I've been stronger in ways that I didn't realize even until recently. I've been just trying to become more aware of all that. There's a lot of hidden strength within all this turmoil and with all this suffering and pain. And so a lot of people who have a lot of experiences, and I'm not saying that I've gone through like a lot compared to other people, but I do know some people that haven't gone through much, and those people seem to be a little more, how should I say, simple-minded, with all due respect, to life, because they don't have the full range of experience. So in some ways, and this is going to be hard to hear, especially if you're depressed right now, being at the low that you're at will only amplify the highs in life once you come out of this low, because all your perspectives is going to be adjusted. Your contrast in life between low and high and all in between, it's all going to feel different. And it's going to be that much more potent just to have a good and nice day. When you come out of your depression, feeling good is going to feel very good. And when you feel on top of the world, it's going to be very euphoric. And you have to have these negative and positives to have this contrast. A lot of people say, why is it that we ever even, have to feel so bad? Or why is this so negative? And why is the world like this? Because we could never experience those positives and those highs without those negatives. It has to be there. It has to be. So in some ways, you almost want to be thankful for just a moment that you have this experience, because when this experience leaves, and it will eventually, it will, nothing stays the same. Things always change over time. And when you get out of your depression, you can have that to help you realize how good things really are in the moment. As always, you guys take care. Catch you later.